Confucian Filial Piety, The Way to the Past, by Ayelen Placencia, Rosemary and Talar. What is the proper solution to social disorder? Is it strict laws and regulations, or is it to be more relaxed with weak governmental control? Let's take a moment to consider societal periods of Confucianism. Confucianism was created by a philosopher from ancient China who is known by the name Confucius. Confucius was inspired to teach and guide China and its people away from the plaguing social disorder of his time. Confucius believed that implementing ritual and moral framework in the people of China could lead to a better society overall. The Eastern Zhou dynasty took place centuries before Confucianism was created, and is famously known for its spring and autumn period that lasted from 770 to 476 BCE. Even though the name may sound pleasant, it was a fairly chaotic time due to intense political turmoil. In this period, it became increasingly important to the general public to contemplate the best ways to generate a peaceful and cooperative society. It was a period of the 100 philosophical schools. Then following the Eastern Zhou dynasty, around the 6th century BCE, Laozi, a Chinese philosopher, wrote Laozi, or the Dou De Jing, a text of religious Taoism, a different philosophy that mainly focused on people's relationship with nature and the natural ways of the world. Then Confucius, who lived from 551 to 479 BCE, became popular for his filial piety instruction to the point where it became a popular belief and way of life. He believed himself to be a modern messenger of the values from the Eastern Zhou dynasty. During this time, stories like the ones in the 24 Paragons of Filial Piety were published. These are the Chinese government as propaganda, hoping that the general public would learn and become inspired to emulate these values. Now we will quote a paragon from Confucius, 24 Paragons of Filial Piety, entitled Entering Servitude to Pay for a Father's Funeral, Dongyang.
Dongyang lived during the Han Dynasty, and as his mother had passed away years ago, he scratched out a meager living to support his ailing father. Dongyang found work as a farm laborer and earned barely enough to keep his father in medicine. The old man was an invalid, so Dongyang would carry him to a cart and tenderly wheel the elder to the shade of a tall tree beside the field where he was working. In this way, he was able to keep his job and also nurse his father at the same time. Several years passed in this fashion, but then the senior Dong died, and Dongyang, having spent the last penny for last-minute medical care, found himself unable to pay for a proper funeral. All he could do to scrape together sufficient funds for a coffin and mourners was to sell himself into bondage as an indentured servant, with the promise to repay the bond money in the future. Having sent off the coffin, the young man headed for his owner's house. A pretty girl met him on the road and told him her story, how both her parents had passed away, and how she couldn't locate her relatives in the area. She said that she hoped that Dongyang would be kind enough to take her in, so that she could have some security and reliance. He found no objection, and the two of them asked heaven and earth to be witnesses, as they pledged their troth then and there. Together they entered the home of Dongyang's indentured master, an extremely miserly weaver. He read the labor contract to the couple and demanded 300 bolts of perfect cloth to redeem the freedom of Dongyang. The young man was not afraid of hard work, but figured out that if man and wife cooperated and joined their strength, it would take at least 3 years of labor before the task could be completed. To Dongyang's complete surprise, the new bride wove all 300 bolts of cloth in less than 1 month. The weaving boss was even more astonished when the young couple handed over the perfect fabric and, contract in hand, gaily walked out the door to freedom. They strolled past the tree where they had first met, and his wife suddenly fell silent. Her countenance glowed with an uncanny light, and Dongyang asked her to explain her demeanor. "I now have my freedom. You should be happy." Tears ran down her face as she said, "I am an immortal from the heavens. Your heart of filial respect is so noble that I was touched and came down to this world to assist you in your task. But now I must return. I am not able to stay with you. Take good care of yourself." Dongyang couldn't bear to part with her, but how could he permit an immortal from the heavens from returning when the time was up? Helplessly, he watched his wife slowly ascend into the sky and fly away. A verse in his honor says, "His father's funeral sent him into servitude. A maiden charming and immortal met him on the way. They wove the cloth that ransomed back his freedom. His filial conduct touched even heaven."
It is in this story that we can truly see the essential facets of Confucian filial piety. Dongyang gives every ounce of himself towards working to take care of his dying father without giving a second thought to his own needs and desires. He sees himself solely as the guardian of his father, not a person himself, and takes on a parental role over his parent. He spends every cent on keeping his father alive and content. After his father passes, he takes in a young parentless woman in need of shelter and security. In this, he demonstrates extreme generosity of time, money, and resources. In filial piety, it is expected for children to relentlessly donate all they have towards their parents' better good. Filial piety is divinely sanctioned. Dongyang's continued devotion to his parents even after their demise to the point of putting himself in indentured servitude is rewarded by an immortal from the heavens, who helps him to accomplish his task in exponentially shorter time. She says that because he is so noble in his pursuit to honor his parents, she wanted to help him to be able to complete his strenuous task less painfully. Other facets of filial piety include self-sacrifice of the child, extreme perceptivity of the child, initiative to build/repair their relationship coming from the child, the relationship being one-sided with the parent on a pedestal, and more. At this point, you might be wondering, how might the societal system from so long ago, from a time of drastically different social conditions, be beneficial to people in modern society? In what context can we see aspects of filial piety present in our current lives? In many parts of the world, once parents are finished raising their children, the household roles start to reverse. As the parents become older, they will move in with one of their married children. In most Eastern cultures, parents move in with a son. The son, daughter-in-law, and grandchildren then support the parents. All their needs are met and they are provided with shelter, food, clothing, and comfort. In the West, in America and Europe, a single child might choose to move in with their older parents. The son or the daughter will care for them, cook, and supply their basic needs. In some cases, if the single caretaker child gets married, they will continue to live with the parents. Some children opt to purchase the family home and continue to live with their parents until they pass instead of placing them in an elderly care facility, an industry with a negative history of abuse. Filial piety has shaped Chinese society in many forms, such as the Elderly Rights Law of 2013, which put forth the right for parents to sue their children for not visiting enough. Although the incorporation of some of the aspects have varied, the main ideas resonate through present-day societies. Though the entirety of filial piety, especially the loss of agency of the child, may be too extreme to vouch for to include in modern-day situations, in this time of division among generations, certain aspects, like the ideas of showing kindness and respect to one's parents and elders, are ones that can aid in greasing the wheels of generational dissonance towards a general societal good.